are here with legendary wide receiver Herman Moore, my guy. Man, he looked good in that black hat, so I had to put on my black hat to match him. The guy is styling and profiling. Ric Flair needs to move over. Herman, I'm close up there. Woo, man! I love Ric Flair. That guy he is a legend, a legend. Herman Moore. It's almost Christmas. It's the holidays. I think that we should get a present to the people and give them a great conversation today regarding our Detroit Lions and talk about the future of this franchise this season and maybe some other subjects, going forward. Playoffs. Are we talking about playoffs, Herm? Do you think the Detroit Lions, 7-7, 3 games to go, have a shot to make the playoffs?
I think they got a strong chance to make it. The thing people have to just not be tempered on, and I use that sometimes, is this. If the Lions win this weekend, which I expect that they will, I think they're going to come in favorite. Everyone I talk to, they don't want to play the Lions. And some of the national media go, the Lions who? No, I'm telling you, this Lions football team. They don't want to face this football team right now if you got anything on the line. However, when you look at the Commanders, and then you look at the fact that they're sitting in a really good spot right now to be able to move forward. I think that San Francisco is going to do their thing, and I think they're going to get work from everybody that needs to do some work to help them be successful. And I think the Lions move up. I think Seattle's going to have a hard time with Kansas City, and the Lions will be sitting in that final playoff spot after the end of this weekend, and then they just have to win out at that point. They went out from then on. They're in the driver's seat right now if they can win this next football game.
A lot of teams in the NFC that are in the playoffs, and they're going to go forward. You got San Francisco 49ers. Dallas Cowboys going to have that in their Philadelphia Eagles. What team scares you the most? Say the Lions get that 7th seed. They got to travel to either Minnesota or San Francisco. That's what the teams that you would have to face. What team would you not want to see and why?
I don't want to see them on the road, West Coast, playing San Fran. That's the one. If they get Minnesota, I think that's going to be the game, the first game as far as in the playoffs that people are going to want to watch. That's going to be the game to watch because the Lions are not going to be someone that Minnesota can walk over. They've played them tough 2 times, beating them one of those 2 times. So this is a great matchup opportunity for the Lions. And if you're excited about hearing about this team getting its first victory since 1991, that would be the one that would give them the biggest opportunity to do that. San Francisco is just playing tough football right now, and their defense is for real. And I think they would give us a little bit of a problem, whereas I think we have weapons, but I think they stabilize and they really neutralize quite a bit because of their defensive attack, man. They get after the quarterback in an awful way.
They are relentless. When I watch that defense, it's scary. I mean, you got Bosa coming off the edge, just all the players in there making plays. They scare me the most as well. I 100% agree with you. I'd rather face the Minnesota Vikings. I think we match up better as well with them. They got a defense that you can score on. You have the ability to come back from. I think if you were to get behind quickly against San Francisco, I think that would be a problem. They pin their ears back, and that defense would get after you like crazy. And that does put a little bit of fear watching that. And I'd love to get their first win since 1991. You talk about that. What do you think the state of the franchise, the fan base would be if the Lions win a playoff game, say they go to Minnesota and win the game since 1991?
That would be a tremendous battle back. It reminded me of when we needed 7 games. I think it was 1995. We needed 7 games to get into the playoffs, and we came into the playoffs the hottest team going in it. We had to face Philadelphia on the road, which was very hard to win at Veterans Stadium. And we ultimately got clobbered because we had a disastrous first quarter and close, some of the second quarter. And we got too far behind and couldn't make up the spread. But with this team, they've had to win, and they've had to do it. And it reminded me almost of that same way in which we went down that path where we were just everything we wanted to do was clicking. Defense played well. Offense played well. Special teams played well. You see Raymond return one for a touchdown, which proved to be really a big play in the game where special teams really is something that really won this game for them, because offensively they played an okay game, but it wasn't their best. Defensively, they played an okay game, but it wasn't their best. But they just played a well balanced game. To do that now going into these final games down the stretch, they have an opportunity, man, to do some things that hasn't been done in quite some time. You start thinking back to 1991. Forget about the times that Lions have even had some other playoff opportunities in within the last 10 years. But I'm talking about just pure victory. And to be able to do that on the road, we did ours at home. So I think that says a lot as well.
You talked about that, how you just got hot as a team when you were playing. What is the difference between a team like the Lions right now that's surging, midway through the season and to the end of it, than a team that was winning, like the last year's Cardinals? They won a lot in the first part of the season, but kind of crumbled. What is the difference between that and how a team like Detroit, if they got in, they can be dangerous because of their late surge?
Well, there's two things that you have. There's a couple things you have taken place, take into consideration when you think about just getting into the playoffs. There's one thing getting into the playoffs. There's momentum that takes you in, and people don't really like that word. But I'm telling you, when you're playing, that momentum and confidence and being sound in your assignments and all those things, that's what all that means. Not just that the team has this elevation of play and all those things. No, they're doing all the right things right at the right time. But if you face teams and organizations who understand the elevation and the next level that happens in the playoffs, is not like the regular season. It is trying to compare preseason to regular season, and then trying to compare regular season to postseason in the playoffs is two different things, because it's there is no room for error. There are no do-overs. There's no mistakes. There's no, hey, I'll get you next time. It means win or go home. And teams that have the experience of doing that, not only the coaching staff, they're going to know how to coach that type of environment. They're going to know how to either rest or prepare their players a little differently than what they would in a regular season game. They're going to also mentally know how to prepare those players and those teams. Now, you got some coaches on this staff that have gone through it, but the players haven't. You got a few players that may have gone to playoffs and had some ability to be in postseason play. But this is a young team. How will they respond to that type of environment? That's what we had in 1991. We were a young team. We were playing a very seasoned Washington Redskins team. And I'm telling you, they played it at a whole different level than what we were playing at.
For us to be in the playoffs, or at least in the hunt right now in the surging Detroit Lions, one of the reasons that occurred is because the emergence of the Lions defense. The defense was doing terrible the first half of the year, is absolutely picked up. You're very adamant throughout this whole season to not fire Aaron Glenn. And now we're seeing the fruits of the labor, the Aaron Glenn working his magic with these players. Why was it important to stick with him and try to get this defense to be simplified and let him take control of it and get this thing back right?
The easy way to put this is, when they had some struggles defensively, he took a fresh unit of players last year, and he was able to get more out of them than any of us expected. We expected the defense to really be kind of the Achilles heel, to be really the part of this team that was going to struggle. It proved to be the other thing, and that's because he prepared them. That's because he put in the right place. So you don't all of a sudden say, I'm going to strip that all away because they're having some type of a crisis, whether it be early or mid-season. As much as now these players are being moved around, you're still trying to figure out your linebacking unit. You're still trying to figure out the rotation of your interior lineman, your rush in. You got a rookie guy that's coming in, and everybody's got high expectations in Aiden Hutchinson. And then in the secondary, you got players that some have been injured that are coming back, like Akuda, and then you also have Jacobs. You got all these different players that are, you just don't know what you're going to get, and they start to come together. People are calling to have people remove, fire, tear down the team, get rid of this coach. Dan Campbell's not the guy, and all these, that just wasn't the case. You have to be able to have patience in chaos, and you have to understand that they know more than we know on the inside. And that was one of the things that was really frustrating as a player, that you would hear the beat writers, you would hear media, you would hear fans talk about what they thought we should do, but really not understanding the process that we were going through. and understanding we see the film, we live and breathe it. This isn't something we just pick up and say, okay, I'm going to go out and start talking about this team because this is something I'm doing after work. No, they're doing it from the time they wake up until the time they leave, and then they get up and they repeat that and do it over. So they're going to know better than all of us.
Yeah, and it seems like they did exactly that. But they did terminate Aubrey Pleasant. And ever since that termination, the defenses look better. They simplified it. Was there potentially an issue going on with him? Is that one of the reasons? Because it is in concurrent right now with the Lions defense playing much better since he has left the coaching staff.
Well, I can't really necessarily say that's the case, and I wouldn't want to be one that sits out and throws someone like that under the bus, or say he was the reason, or they were the reason that this team didn't excel or the positions didn't develop on according to plan. But what I think happened, if using my best guesstimation, is that they wanted to make some changes. The position coach isn't really the one that's calling the plays. He's making recommendations and evaluating his players and who's best at certain positions. He's giving evaluations and of the different skill sets that work best together. He's giving that to his defensive coordinator. Defensive coordinators then making a decision, which they rely heavily on the position coaches on. Who should you play, who you should start, and they keep that accountability for who they put on the field and the units that they put together. But ultimately, it's going to be everyone's got their hand in it, not only on the development side, which is more on your position coach, but in terms of the strategy and the scheme, that's going to be your coordinators and your coaches working together. And ultimately, the head coach, if he thinks there are changes that need to be done, that's going to take ultimate rule over that.
Perfect.